What if there was a safe space for you to explore artificial intelligence? What if there was a team of friendly professionals waiting to help you examine what you can do with AI in your courses? Welcome to the world of what if.
I hope that you'll enjoy this presentation and find it beneficial. It's one of the topics that I really honestly find the most fascinating as an instructional designer. So with that, let me tell you a little bit about what I'm going to show you and we'll get to dive into today. I have 3 parts for this presentation. So in the first part, I'm going to present some of the research that through my master's degree and explorations at a conference, which I'll talk about, I was able to encounter, and it really changed the way that I think about setting up a course or a module or an assignment. So I'm going to focus in on how you can set up a series of assignments so that it scaffolds for your students. If you're not familiar with that term, I'll definitely tell you a bit about that. And the research can give you even more than what I'll be able to touch on today in this 30 minutes. So I definitely recommend checking out the resources, and I do have them in this presentation for you. Next, I'm going to show you how you can use AI to be able to generate ideas for those schema-based assignments. And it really is a time saver and a great idea partner that you can use. And then I'll kind of wrap it up with some tips that I have from my experiences of practicing with this. And we have some ready to go AI assignments, which I'll show you where you can find them and give you some ideas to start you off if you're interested. So the question that I began with that kind of framed this entire presentation is something that I reflected often on during my time as a teacher. So I spent a decade teaching, and I taught from elementary all the way to adults for various time periods. But I always wanted to think about how I could better scaffold the materials so that my students would find it easier to take in that information. If you're not familiar with scaffolding, the visual that I always have in my head is like a ladder, and some students are going to start at that very basic level, the bottom of the ladder, and they might have no background knowledge or schema on that content. So as a teacher, it's always my focus to help them to get to where they want to be and where I would like them to be in terms of the depth of knowledge that I'd like to be able to expose them to, and the skill sets that I'd like them to have that they can take into the workplace. So that's kind of what I geared this presentation around, and I'm going to show you how you can set up those assignments using AI to have those little steps that they can take that will help them to be able to learn your content and to be able to be successful and gain those skills. With that, the research that I'd like to present first is an article that I encountered. And it's all about a schema-based instructional design model. So there are several different instructional design models that instructional designers utilize when setting up courses. And I thought this one was really cool. I actually came along with this with my academic work as I was working on my master's degree in instructional design and technology. And I think you'll find it really interesting. So I did include the Florida Atlantic Library permalink, and I just want to show you that so that you can check that out. This article is peer reviewed, and it's an open access article that has the CC BY Creative Commons license. So it's really excellent and worth the time to read through. I'm only going to show you a small bit of it today in what I want to show you for setting up those schema-based assignments, but definitely check it out. It really, like I said, shifted my perspective and how I approach different designs for courses. On the article, if you scroll down, this is one of the main graphics that they have that shows the actual design model. The parts of it that I'm going to focus on today for this presentation are the different schema development stages. So the development stages, there's 5, begin with schema activation, and then construction, followed by automation, modification, and elaboration. And you can see that these researchers put the 3 steps in the center in a circular part, and that is because as you read from the article, they believe this is an iterative process. So as learners, we're always going to be thinking about what we already know and then going through the construction, automation, and modification process where we're building our schema and building our ideas on things. And then we're able to automate that as we're able to make it a little easier for our recall. And then we're able to modify any misconceptions that we might have along the way. The final part of that would be the elaboration part. And that's where we can really build and connect those ideas and spot the similarities and differences in different content areas, perhaps. So I do have a nice little graphic that I like to show for this because it's how I kind of process. I love a visual. So for the schema activation, you can think of this as that prior knowledge base where you're thinking about what you already know about a topic. And in a case where you're in a classroom teaching something synchronous or asynchronous, you can be helping your students to think about what do they already know about this topic. And that helps to set their brains up so that they're ready to build or construct that new content. And this is where you're helping them to be able to connect that idea that you're presenting to them that might be new knowledge for them to any of their prior experiences from their life or from the academic context that you're giving them, like articles or the textbook, videos, resources, anything like that. From there, schema automation is the next development stage. So they're able to have practice opportunities that you'll give them. And this stage is really important because as they practice more, you're able to see what they know, what they don't know, and they're able to feel more successful with that. So that's really, really important to get that pattern recognition as they start to notice different details. And then there might be some of those that they have to modify. So the article and the researchers talk about unlearning and relearning, and there's different assignments that you can put into your courses that will help to support that, where they can be reflecting on any kind of ideas that maybe they need to modify. And you as the teacher can go in and you can help to guide them with that, which I think is really valuable. And then the last part would be the elaboration. So this is where they're able to connect that to broader topics, maybe other courses that they're taking or similar areas. And that's where they're really going to have that high level thinking that you want. So when it comes to me as a teacher, I really loved that I saw this. And I was like, as a teacher, the areas that I tended to focus in on the assignments I built were more schema activation and construction, as well as automation. So I love that AI can be a thought partner for me in building out those ideas. And I can really refine those for what my students need, because ultimately, you know the people that you're teaching best. So you're able to kind of fine tune that and have that set of ideas that sometimes that was like the hardest part as a teacher, is to come up with new ideas or new ways I can present something or a way that will help this specific student. So AI can be really great for that. And I'm going to show you how I like to use it. When it comes to why you should design with schema in mind, there are a few things I wanted to point out based off of the research and my own experiences as an educator. So we know that when people are learning, it's really important that they're able to build those connections from the content that you're teaching them that might be brand new for them, and then their previous experiences. It could be in previous courses or it could be from their lives. And I think schema really helps to do that successfully so that you're able to build that foundation and really set them up for success. It also is helpful because there's nothing more frustrating than going into a topic that you know nothing about and having those really, really rigorous tasks and that feeling as a student where you're like, I really have no idea where to start. So by building assignments that start with activation and then lead to that schema construction and then developing slowly step by step into that elaboration schema stage, you're really able to support your students and make them feel not only comfortable with the content, but that they can be successful and reach out to you and learn along the way, step by step, part by part, assignment by assignment. So it really gives them, I think, a sense of comfort and makes the learning process, especially in asynchronous environments, I think a lot more smooth. And then last but not least, I love this because it helped me to come up with a variety of different ways to assess my students. I know from my time as a teacher, it was a lot of the times just what I would do is I would set up similar structures, but that didn't always give me the full picture of what I wanted to see. And it wasn't always the best for what my students kind of leaned into, so to speak. So some of my students, I could really see what they were understanding and not understanding when I designed different types of assignments so that I could accurately get a picture of what they get and what they don't get. And so I think when you design with the schema in mind, you're able to have a more accurate picture of where your students are at and how you can best support them. From there, I just wanted to tell you about some benefits for you and your students, of course. It does, as I mentioned, make the learning process a lot more smooth for the students when they're starting a new course or a content area, but it also is a huge time saver. So if I were in the classroom right now, this would be something amazing that I would love, because there's always a lot of things every day that you have to do to be able to do what you need to prepare for the students. And this can be a little time saver, and you can use some of that time for other purposes. So much more simple than you might think. And I'll show you just how fast it can be done. The other piece of research I wanted to show you is actually something that I encountered at a conference. I was very lucky to be able to go to the UCF Teaching and Learning with AI conference with my coworkers. And it was really a wonderful session of information. And I picked just one of the breakouts that I wanted to focus on with you today, because it connects really well with the topic of scaffolding. So when it comes to scaffolding, many people might be more familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, and this researcher has some really cool things that he presented on at that conference that I wanted to show you so you could check it out for yourself. So I'm going to go to the website, but definitely look into it, randallschober.com, and I got to hear him talk about his Bloom AI framework. The link to the website is in my presentation, and I do have it right here for us. So if you scroll down on this website page, you'll see that same graphic that I was showing on my page. So for his Bloom AI framework, there's a lot to dig into, but what he presented on is that the AI can be a thought partner for teaching the lower levels. So he says that this is going to help with the what for students. And then the upper levels of the Bloom's taxonomy can be where the teachers are filling in the how and the why. So he has more on that on his website, but I just wanted to point out he has a great set of human-led activities and then AI-supported activities and the AI toolbox. And some of the tools I'm going to present with today are listed over here. And some of the tools that you'll see up here are things that we have presented on in previous playgrounds. So definitely check out our YouTube channel for some ideas on that. But a lot to unpack and explore there. So I think you'll really like it. And it's a game changer, in my opinion. It really makes me think about what I can do differently to help my students. So the tools that I chose to present with today are Copilot and ChatGPT. I wanted to use these because these are the tools that I use the most, and Copilot is the tool that Florida Atlantic has for us as FAU employees. So I'm going to show you with both of those, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison. Before I do my demo, I want to show you what I'm going to be doing and how I think about how I'm going to prompt AI. So when it comes to prompting AI, my experiences that I've learned as I've been working on actually using AI tools is you have to start with context, because the AI doesn't know, those large language models don't know your students like you do. And they know, some of your content, but they don't have the expertise that you have. So if you can give it some context about what you want to do and what you'd like it to help you with as a tool, then that is really helpful. And that is something that I'm going to show you today as well. There's an article that I showed you that I'm going to use to have the AI help me. And you want to think about some other things too, your audience, your topic, maybe even giving it your syllabus. So it has some of that information to be able to really best align what you would like with what it's able to give you in terms of ideas. The next part of what I would do in prompting is I would give it a schema development stage that I want to focus on. This is not to say that any assignment is going to have just one schema development stage. You can definitely have more than one, but I like to scaffold it for myself too. So when I start with the AI, I'll start small. I'll just do one assignment, one schema development stage, and then I'll build up from there as best fits my needs and what I think is best for my students. And so I'm going to pick one that we'll focus on today. And then the last part would be where I continue to prompt. So I continue the conversation with the AI and I help it with other things that I want to have ideas for. So this could be maybe you want to create a lesson plan, a module. Maybe you want to go from one schema stage to the next and have a series of assignments. That's all something that it can help you with, and you just have to prompt it that way. So think about what you'd like to do, and during the playtime today, you could totally try that out with us. Here are my prompts. So these are what I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to put into Copilot as well as ChatGPT, and we're going to see what they come up with. And it's always interesting because every time you talk and have this conversation in these chats, it's going to be slightly different. So you won't have the same results, but that's a larger pool of ideas that you can work with. So the first part, I'm going to just read to you now, and then I'm going to paste in because this is where I'm giving AI the context. So I'm going to tell it a little bit about me. I'm telling it I'm an educator, I'm working in higher education, and the lesson I'm going to have it work with me on is actually for schema development as an instructional design course. So I'm going to have it practice with that and show you some possibilities. From there, I continued to give it information. So what do I want it to do? I want it to help me develop a series of potential ideas for assignments, and I want it to use those specific schema development levels that I mentioned, which are from the research article. And I'm going to give it the research article as well. So that way it has something to pull from that I know is pretty in line with what I'd like to create. And as I mentioned, the peer-reviewed article has that CC BY license. So I'm able to put that into Copilot. That is permissible because of that. From there, I'm just going to ask it and check in with it. Are you familiar with this? So I'm giving it context, I'm giving it an article, and I'm just making sure that before I really start to continue with my prompting about what I want, that it has an idea of what I'm looking for. And let's say it comes up with something when it's responding that's not in line, then that's where I can continue to prompt and have that conversation. So I'm going to show you this first part right now. I'm just copy pasting this, and I'm going to go back and forth between Copilot and ChatGPT. So I'm going to start with Copilot. I'm logged into my Copilot, and I'm going to just make this a little bigger for us. I'm going to copy paste that prompt right here. And I'm going to fill in my context. So when you have playtime later, you can use these prompts and fill in what you want it to do. But I'm going to have it make a lesson on schema for my course on instructional design. From here, I'm just going to copy paste it for myself so that I can put it into ChatGPT, but I'm going to let it go and let it think. And I'm going to put it over here in ChatGPT, which we'll come back to and take a look at. So from here, it's going to let me know what it knows. So it says it's familiar with the schema-based instructional design. It's a powerful framework for helping learners refine and build their mental models. So focusing on the schema. And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, okay, it's got the ideas that I wanted. Let's give it one more thing. I'm going to say, I would like you to consider this article as we come up with ideas. And I'm going to say, can you do that? And then from there, I already have the article downloaded on this desktop. So I'm going to add the content. And from here, I'm going to click upload from this device. I know where it is. It's in my documents folder. Here's the article. And I'm going to click open. So sometimes it takes a little bit to load like you just saw there, but it's pretty fast. And from there, I'm going to click to prompt it to start to consider that. It's going to think about it. While it thinks about it, let's go see what ChatGPT had to say. So ChatGPT, similar in its response, said, yes, I'm familiar with this and the stages that you outlined, and it's giving me that information. And it says, here's a series of assignment ideas. So it's already starting off some of the ideas for schema activation. Remember, with this one, I haven't given it the article yet, so it's always interesting to see what it comes up with. Concept mapping. I love a concept map. So I like that idea. And I will kind of pick and choose as I go through and I see what it comes up with and be like, yes, I feel like that's a good fit, or no, I'm not interested in that. And you can see some of the other ideas for construction that it came up with: worked examples, comparison charts, schema automation. It says rapid redesign, where you could give them a flawed instructional activity and ask them to fix it. That sounds really fun. Students love to solve a problem, and it's very real world, authentic assessment. So I like that. Modification, it's got a case analysis. You could maybe do some case studies. And then elaboration, a capstone design project, or a professional reflection. I like a lot of these ideas. So this is really cool to see. And then it's asking me what I want it to do next. I happen to know I want to give it the article next. So I'm going to give it the article now. And I'm going to say, I would like you to consider this article as we develop ideas. Can you do that? And then from there, I am signed into ChatGPT, but I have tried this when I've not been signed into ChatGPT. The only difference was that it wouldn't let me attach my article. So you can try it out on the free accounts as well. So I'm going to prompt that, let that work, and jump back over to Copilot. So for Copilot, we just gave it the article, and we're going to see what it came up with and what it has for us. So it's stating the article's name, and it's talking about some of the development stages. And then from there, it's giving me some ideas. So it's always cool to compare and see what Copilot came up with versus what ChatGPT came up with, and see which ideas I like the best that I want to focus in on. So for schema activation, it's giving me a goal statement and then assignment ideas. Notice it's kind of mentioning what schema activation should be doing. So activating that prior knowledge, preparing them for new learning. It's got some ideas: advanced organizer creation, pre-reading reflection, knowledge mapping warm-up. And then for schema construction, case study analysis, interactive video critique, and a V-diagram activity. From here, as someone who's already read the research, it's actually taking some of these ideas from the research that I put in. So I know that and I'm familiar with that. And that's why it can be really great to give it as much context as you can so that it helps you come up with different ideas. Worked examples, completion problem design. These are other things mentioned in the research that you could consider. And so from here, I'm going to pick one stage that I'd like to focus on, and I'm going to just build an assignment based off of that. So I'm going to go back to my playground slides real quick. I have the prompt already ready, and I'm going to paste it here into Copilot first. My prompt is very simple here because I've made sure that it has the context. I've made sure I kind of like what it's coming up with so far. And now I'm going to focus in on what I want to do. So I'm going to pick the modification stage. This is the stage that, as I mentioned, as a teacher, I felt like I always wanted to have more ideas for my students for these higher level thinking. And I'm going to say for a graduate course. And you can pick and choose during the playtime what you'd like to try out, but that's what I want to try. So from here, I've given it what stage I want it to focus on, and I've told it I want it to generate topics for a module. So I'm going to let it start, and I'm going to go paste this same thing in ChatGPT. So let that think, and let's take a look at what Copilot had to say for ideas for my module. So from here, it's confirming what I told it. It's focusing on schema modification. It's going to be for a graduate level course. And it's mentioning that we want to pull some ideas from the research article. So here's some things that it's mentioning. And then here's some topics that I'm going to be able to choose from. So from here, I'm going to look and see which one I like the best, and we'll play with that. So we've got designing for cognitive dissonance, instructional strategies to challenge learners, unlearning to learn, strategies for facilitating conceptual change, relearning in practice, designing instruction for re-engagement with familiar concepts, and reflection as a tool for schema modification. It might have some more, but I kind of like this one a lot. I think reflection can be really powerful in online courses and in person when you get to have those discussions with students. So I'm going to pick this one of the reflection For this, the last part of my prompt is going to be where I'm telling it what's next. So I'm going to decide that I would like to go with number 4. I could just leave the information there and have it say number 4, but just to be like extra sure it gets what I want, I'm going to copy paste what number 4 is. So that way it knows that I want to focus on that. And then I took the other part from my prompts that I've set up. I want it to give me a sample assignment. I want it to include any ideas that it might have for an activity for each schema development stage. And so I'm going to let it give me ideas to choose from. From here, I'm going to go see what ChatGPT had for me and then kind of wrap up a bit. So we'll come back to that in a second. Ideas that ChatGPT had. Notice some similarities: unlearning, cognitive dissonance, unlearning to relearn, modification through cultural and contextual lenses, and then the role of reflection. So we can see a similar topic there. And again, that's where providing that context is really helpful, because a lot of these things it's going to think about from the research I gave it. From here, I can put the same thing. I'm just going to use the numbering system that it has here. So this one is actually the 6th idea. I'm going to put that same title here. And I'm going to give it that same prompt. Please give me some sample assignment ideas at each of the schema development stages. Let it think, give it some time, and see what it comes up with. With that, I'm going to kind of wrap up and show you the ideas it came up with. And from here, we want to remember AI is not going to have the perfect thing. It's not necessarily going to be ready to go. You're going to be able to go in and edit it. But you can see just in this time frame, I was able to generate a lot of ideas that I might not have thought of right away. It might have taken me a lot longer to come up with this. And that time can instead be used for something else. So here's the sample assignment that it has for a reflection tool designed for the schema modification for graduate learners. And I can go through, see the setup, see if I like it, and then kind of continue to prompt and have the conversation if the ideas aren't exactly what I want. Or I can copy it, paste it in a Word document, and start to work on that and edit it on my own to be what I want it to be. Here's the assignment title. I like that. Reframing design, a reflective journey through schema development. And then it's giving the students an overview, helping them to modify their existing instructional design schemas through structured reflection and critical analysis. And then it's got an activity for each of those development stages. So for the first one, it looks like it's doing a prompt. It's got a prompt set up for me. It's got an idea to have the students be doing a visual map of their instructional design process as they currently understand it. And then a belief inventory that is going to be where they'll share with me 5 assumptions that they believe about how people learn best. So that gives me a lot of information about what my students' prior knowledge is, and it helps them to think about what their prior knowledge is. From here, you can see it's got ideas for schema construction, mini case analysis, automation where they're practicing and gaining that fluency, a pattern recognition journal, self-explanation exercises. That sounds really interesting. And then it has some for modification as well as elaboration. So I won't read everything, but you can see it kind of did a really great job. And I have a lot of ideas that I can start with. And it's even giving me some submission format options at the end. From there, I can prompt however I want. So I do have some ideas and suggestions for you for what you could do next if you're interested. What I would recommend after trying these prompts is I would take a look at some other things that you could do to really make it interesting for your students. Maybe ask it about student choice ideas, differentiating if you have students that are at different levels within your course. Or if you already have an assignment that you really love, how could you adapt that? How could you change it up using the AI to have more scaffolding in place where you can start small and help your students to gain that knowledge? If you want some that are already ready to go, the team here has developed a series of amazing AI assignments that not only have you getting to see how your students are doing with the content, but also gives them some practice with using these AI tools. I sorted some of them. They're all amazing, but I picked like key ones that I think you could check out that are pretty in line with each of the schema development stages that I talked about today. And then from there, just some closing remarks. Course design is something that I really love. And regardless of if you're teaching students in a class or if you're teaching someone how to do something new, I think it's really valuable if you use schema and you think about how you can set up those stages so that your students can go bit by bit, piece by piece to really learn that content. The last part is going to be, if you have any questions for me, please let me know. There are opportunities which you can see up here for ways you can work with us here at COSI. And then these are my references with the links to the different articles. This is for playtime, but this is for if you want to play with these ideas later.